Hello, welcome to Community Connection. I'm your host, Gloria Enloe. The goal of Community Connection has always been to let people in Jefferson City know about what is happening in Jefferson City. The city has a lot to offer. There are always a lot of fun, exciting things going on. We have a lot of entertainment options available to residents, and we also have a lot of educational opportunities available to residents. And every once in a while, we have something come along that is both educational and a little bit fun. And the topic I'm going to talk about today is an event that's coming up later this month, and it's sponsored by JCMG, and I think it's very important for women, the women viewers in our audience, to know about this. JCMG is going to be offering a breast cancer seminar in late January, and with us today is one of the speakers who is going to be participating in that, Dr. Esteban Marten. And Dr. Marten, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Dr. Marten, can you tell us a little bit about this seminar, specifically who it's aimed at? Who's the target audience for this?
Well, I would say all adult women. Every woman is at risk for breast cancer at some point in their lives. In fact, it's one of the 3 most common cancers in this country and around the world. And I think it has been increasing somewhat in prevalence, and I have noticed sometimes younger and younger women being diagnosed with breast cancer. We're going to offer a group of 6 JCMG physicians specializing in different aspects of breast cancer screening and treatment to discuss exactly who's at risk, who should be screened, and what the treatment options available are.
And now you talked a little bit about, that every adult woman could be at risk for breast cancer, but obviously there's going to be some women who maybe have greater risks or have more of a genetic predisposition to that. Is there going to be someone speaking there that can talk a little bit about that, like who should be more vigilant maybe?
Absolutely, and we have several physicians in the group that have recently finished training at nationally renowned institutions. One of them is Dr. Bodiwala, who's a radiologist and will be talking to us about screening. He trained at MD Anderson. We have Dr. Doug Lowe, who's an oncologist from Missouri, and he's going to talk to us about genetic testing. Because as you said, if a woman has had a first-degree relative, such as a sister, mother, or even a daughter who's had breast cancer, they're more likely to be at risk for breast cancer, and there are genetic tests that can help point out who is at risk.
And I know that obviously you're going to have speakers there talking about risks, screening, treatment. One of the things you're going to be talking about, though, is reconstruction. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the different options that are available to women there once they've started their treatment?
Absolutely, and in fact that is my area of expertise, and what I'm passionate about is offering women the option of breast reconstruction. I moved here from Cleveland, Ohio in the past 3 months and started JCMG recently. There aren't a tremendous number of plastic surgeons in the community. Unlike somewhere like Beverly Hills, they're on every corner. So I'm very happy to be able to offer women the option of breast reconstruction either at the time of mastectomy or even later on for various different reasons. Sometimes breast reconstruction can be done later if women can't decide or if they may need radiation. There are many factors involved, and it's complicated. So it's one of the reasons I'd like to give them a talk on all the options. I think that some of them involve silicone implants, some of them involve their own tissue from their tummy or other places. But immediate breast reconstruction at the time of mastectomy has become pretty much the standard of care nationally for, I'd say, over 15 to 20 years. And it really helps women wake up from surgery feeling more intact after, if they do require a full mastectomy. And I am able to feel like I'm contributing to the treatment of their cancer and helping them feel restored.
And that's one of the things I did want to really talk about is, obviously when a person's recovering from cancer, it's something that takes not just a physical toll, but an emotional toll. Do you find that when women can have these reconstructive surgeries and kind of wake up feeling more whole, that contributes to their recovery and their well-being down the road?
Definitely. There are women who will come to me, and once they hear that reconstruction does involve more surgery and sometimes several surgeries, and can take up to a year to get the final result, some women are a bit hesitant and will even tell me, well, I have to think about it, or I feel like I don't want that much surgery, and I respect those decisions. However, I tell them, there is some grief in additional surgery, but clearly there's grief in losing the breast too, and only they can make that decision. It's my job to guide them and doing what's best for them. And I think that one of the things I've enjoyed is finding that there is actually a lot of support in the community for women in these situations. There are several groups, some sponsored by the American Cancer Society, others sponsored by women who've taken an interest and a passion in this locally. One is called the Rah-Rah Sisterhood. And the more women talk about what's going on with their treatment, I think the better they do.
And obviously, when women consider their options, a lot of these options are, in fact, surgery. And people might think of plastic surgery and think it's not that big a deal, but this is something very serious and probably something that it does take a while to recover from.
Absolutely, and plastic surgery is real surgery, even if it's cosmetic. In this case, it's reconstructive, but there can be complications, and I do everything I can to avoid them. I do everything I can to get them through them if there are complications. But that's why we need to really be a team as a group of doctors and counsel them on all these things. I'm a doctor first and a plastic surgeon second. I want to do what's best for the patient, but I definitely enjoy giving them all the options of reconstruction that are available in the modern times.
You mentioned briefly that reconstruction, especially immediately after surgery, is becoming more and more common. So are you finding that most of the women that are being treated, that that's kind of just, that's what they do now? I
found that, and I think that's the majority of women are choosing now to go ahead and have immediate breast reconstruction and having very satisfying results. Increasingly, I think some women, particularly those who find their genetic testing is positive, don't really want to live with the anxiety of worrying that one day they may get cancer on the other side, and are having both sides done, mastectomy on both sides with immediate reconstruction on both sides. And it's often, for a plastic surgeon, slightly easier to get a more symmetric or equal result that way. I've had several women in that situation that have gotten very good results, and that just seems like the trend now, and I think it's not necessarily a bad one. I think they feel calm. They don't have to worry about it anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't have to get screened as much anymore, and the cosmetic results are very good.
Oh, and would you say that most women, specifically the ones you've treated, but also in the field in general, are good candidates for reconstruction, and that the greater percentage of women will have success and the results that they're pleased with?
Yes, and even across different ages, there have been studies on breast reconstruction in the elderly. Just because you're 65 or older doesn't necessarily mean you're not a candidate for breast reconstruction. Many of the women I've treated are seniors and have done quite well. The more important thing is to get medically screened, make sure that you're healthy and a good candidate, and if you do have medical problems, that we're aware of them and can treat or prevent complications during the process. And that's why we have medicine doctors, oncologists, and surgeons, plastic surgeons all working together.
And that's one thing I was going to mention is obviously when people think of cancer, the first thing they think of is they have to see an oncologist. But are doctors doing a better job of kind of covering the spectrum with their patients and talking to them about all the different things they should consider and treatments and options that are available to them?
Yes, and you know, we work very closely together, and we talk about every one of our patients frequently. Oftentimes they'll see us the same day and go from one floor to the next, and we'll say, well, what did Dr. So-and-so say? And you know, we'll all be on the same page, and they feel, I think, very well taken care of by that, because it's a group approach, and it's just better that way, I think.
One of the things we talked about already is the psychological well-being of someone, you know, who has obviously been diagnosed with cancer and then is being treated. But there's also loved ones, people that have not had a diagnosis but maybe know someone who is or has a family member. Are there resources available to those people here locally where they can maybe learn more or learn how to comfort a loved one?
Yes, and I think the Rah-Rah Sisterhood locally does a very good job of that. There are other support groups through the American Cancer Society. And I've tried to get the word out with my patients that, you know, if someone has had breast cancer in the past and never was offered reconstruction, that's something that can be done later, absolutely not contraindicated in most cases. And also some women have had treatments and maybe are not completely satisfied with the results or the symmetry or balance of the appearance after surgery. There are always possibilities to improve on that. And then, you know, they may have family members or friends who are at a different stage in the process and need to be screened, or you know, it always comes full circle. At some point, you women get to meet other women in every stage of this process. And I think that's why these support groups are so good. But yeah, I mean, I think that, back to your prior question, medical problems are not necessarily a contraindication for reconstruction, and they just need to be evaluated by a plastic surgeon.
Great. Well, this will be something that you can talk a little bit more about during the seminar, and that's going to be January 31st from 5:30 to 7 at Hawthorne Bank Community Room. That's going to be on the west end of Jefferson City, and there's going to be all kinds of different physicians to cover different things. We talked about risk factors, screening, treatment, reconstruction. Reservations are required. Dr. Marten, is there anything else that you really want to let our audience know before we wrap up today?
I would just emphasize that it's a very exciting time in Jefferson City. JCMG has recruited top-notch physicians from around the country. Two of the best cancer treatment centers in the country are MD Anderson and Sloan Kettering in Houston, Texas, and New York City, and we have an oncologist trained at each one of those centers in our group who will be giving talks on the latest options for this disease. I myself was up at the Cleveland Clinic and also participated in the latest options in breast reconstruction. So I think it's very exciting for patients in the community and even people who are not patients yet to just come learn about what the newest therapies and screening strategies out there are, so everyone can feel more calm about breast cancer and how we can prevent it.
Yeah, and I think that if people are armed with information ahead of time, that if they do unfortunately ever receive a diagnosis, it gives them a little bit of hope and an ability to know what to do next. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank our viewers at home for watching Community Connection. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about more fun and educational opportunities that are going to be events here in Jefferson City. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Folks, why won't we go to the doctor? My uncle called, speech all slurred, complaining his arms numb. He called everyone. He even called my daughter Tiara, because, you know, she's got a year of nursing. Everyone thinks he needs to go to the doctor, including me. So he said, well, will you take me? I'm like, I'm on the road. He goes, I'll wait. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love have symptoms of stroke, don't wait. It may be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain loss.
Hello, welcome to Community Connection. I'm your host, Gloria Enloe. This is the show where we talk about what's happening in Jefferson City, things that you can do to keep yourself entertained, and also informative and educational opportunities, just different events that are happening. During the first half of the show, we talked a little bit about a very important seminar coming up, sponsored by JCMG. It's a breast cancer seminar. But during the second half of the show, we're going to take a little bit of a turn and talk about the arts. Jefferson City has a very vibrant art community. A lot of galleries are here in town, many that people don't know about. But we have an exciting exhibit coming up a little bit later this month. And here to talk to us about that today is Jessica Dulle from Capitol Arts and Fred Schollmeyer, an artist. And I'd like to welcome both of you to the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad to be here.
Well, Jessica, for some of our viewers who may not be familiar with Capitol Arts, can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Sure. The organization itself has been around for about 50 years, but the gallery opened up about 4 years ago, and we're located on Missouri Boulevard right by Washington Park Arena. You know, our gallery hours are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from 10 to 4, and people can also visit us on Saturday and Sundays if they can't make it during the week from 1 to 4. And we feature artists from around Missouri, and we also have artists from outside of Missouri. And the show that we are currently going to be opening is Art by Men, for Men, and about men. And it's a great opportunity for male artists to come out and show what it is that they do. We're going to have painters, photographers, Fred's an airbrush artist, and it's admissions free, so you can come out and see the artwork. We're also going to have an artist reception on January 22nd for this exhibit. And people can come out. It's from 1 to 4. Fred's going to actually do a gallery talk around 2 o'clock, and he's going to show you the pieces that he's entered in the show, as well as do a demonstration. He does airbrush painting and work, and he's going to be teaching a class out at Capitol Arts. So this will be a great opportunity for people to see how he does what he does, and to also sign up for the class.
Well, you know, there's someone like me who I love to look at art, obviously, all kinds of different things, paintings, photographs, sculptures,
Yes.
but I have like zero discernible talent for it, and I don't really understand, you know, what makes a good piece of art versus maybe something that, you know, I could do. Are these kind of exhibits, I mean, can people come and learn a little bit more about the craft?
They can learn a little bit more about it, and we're starting actually with this exhibit having a feature artist, which Fred is going to be, and they're going to do a gallery talk, and it's a great way for patrons to come in and learn about the technique that the artist used, about their background. They can ask them questions about how they did it. We also want to bring in kind of the educational standpoint of the demonstration so that if you are a professional artist, you may just be interested in learning, you know, how your counterpart works to make these great masterpieces, or if you're just interested, you can learn how they do it, and it's just a great way to get people involved with different techniques available.
Great. Well, Fred, can you tell us a little bit about your background? And I know you have some ties to Jefferson City, but just tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Schollmeyer, Missouri, and just outside town, and I live there today. And I'm a graduate of Lincoln University, so I'm familiar with the area here. I've done several shows in Jefferson City over the past several years. And I do a lot of traveling in the summer to sell my art I attend art fairs, outdoor art fairs, where I set up a tent and display my work. And so my wife and I on weekends in the summer are busy, usually traveling throughout the Midwest. We do a lot of shows in Illinois. And I'm a little unique in my process because I use an airbrush to apply the paint. Now that means that most of the paint is sprayed on it, a really fine mist of paint. You know, a piece like this one's entitled Victorian Secret, and it's actually a home. And what I did was I went out and took a lot of photographs. Now I use the photographs as reference to do the painting. This is not a photograph, it's an actual painting, an acrylic painting. And I use the photographs, and from the photographs as reference, I do a drawing. This one's on illustration board. It's a flat white poster board. I then apply a film that's specifically made for airbrush. It's called Frisk film, and that's applied over the drawing. I then take an X-Acto knife and a ruler, and I cut through the film where I want the sharp edges. Now there's a low-tack adhesive on the back of the film. So it's an amazing material, and like I said, it's specifically made for airbrush. I then start removing the film in certain areas at a time and applying paint. Now I work like a watercolor artist in that respect. I apply the paint from light to dark. So I start with the lighter colors, gradually work into the darker colors. I will apply paint to an area, let it dry for a minute. I will then put the film back into position, peel off some more film, spray. And sometimes I will use something called a shield, which is like a small piece of poster board or plastic. And I will hold that up and apply paint underneath it to get like the shadow under the clapboard there. Some of it's freehand airbrush, where the paint is just sprayed on freely without any stencil, any Frisk film. So it's an involved process, and what's difficult about it from one standpoint is that a lot of the artwork will be covered with a film as you're working. So when you're finished and you peel off all the film, you may have some areas too dark or too light. So you then have to reapply the film, go back in and darken areas or lighten areas. Now the vegetation, the tree in this particular painting was applied with a natural sponge. I dipped a natural sponge into acrylic paint and slowly applied the tree. Vegetation doesn't seem very compatible with airbrush, so that part of the painting is done with a sponge. But the end result is that you have a piece of artwork that looks photographic. And there was a movement in the art history in the 1970s where photorealism became very prominent, and it's still a viable means of art today, just because of its kind of a shock appeal. People will come up and go, "Oh, nice photography," and I say, "No, that's a painting." So it's always interesting to see people's expression when they look at the work.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I thought when I saw you put that up there was, oh, that looks like a photograph, because there's so much detail, and it's very just rich and natural looking. So that's very impressive. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk with Fred about another piece that he's going to be telling us a little bit about, and then we'll find out what else is coming up at Capitol Arts, specifically the gallery, and where you can find out more. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Hello, and welcome back to Community Connection. I'm your host, Gloria Enloe. We've been talking with Jessica Dulle from Capitol Arts about an exhibition that they have coming up. It's art by men, for men, and about men. And one of the artists we have with us today is Fred Schollmeyer, who's been telling us a little bit about his technique and his specific works, some of which you guys can see during the exhibit. But Fred, Jessica, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
And Fred, we talked a little bit before the break about one of the pieces that you're going to be featuring, and can you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Yeah, this piece is a piece I call Marbles Number 7, and I've done a whole series of marbles. And the interesting thing, of course, with airbrush is that the glass appears to be very realistic. In this piece, I actually set up a still life of marbles. I actually put a little piece of tape under them so they wouldn't roll around. You can't see. I took that out of the painting, and then I controlled the light, of course, and set the still life in front of me there and did the drawing, and then I applied paint, light to dark, and I was very concerned about composition on this particular piece. Spacing is very important in something this simple. So I was really concerned about not having the same amount of space between the marbles. If you get too much spacing that's the same, it makes the piece look dull. So I was real concerned about that. So there's a lot of thought that goes into a piece like this. And as I mentioned earlier, I work light to dark, and I use frisk film, of course, to cut around the circles there and to produce the marble, the glass-like effect. And so this is a piece that I did a few years ago. I had it in several shows over the years.
Just a rough estimate. I mean, how much time does it take from start to finish to complete a piece like this?
This one, maybe 25, 35 hours, somewhere in there. And it's not uncommon to do a piece, spend a week on it, and not show it. Things don't work out sometimes, and my wife is always saying, "Oh yeah, I like it. Why don't you show it?" But there's a lot of things you have to think about, and so not every piece turns out successfully.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of times we are our own worst critics. Someone else might love it, but you see you know what you were going for, and you see everything that you didn't quite capture.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really amazing piece, and just to hear you talk about the technique, I know I would never have the patience to do something like that. Well, Jessica Dulle, can you tell us about any of the other pieces that we'll see at this exhibit that's about men, and maybe some of the other artists? Are they mostly from Missouri or kind of from all over?
Sure, they're mostly from Missouri, and it's a collaborative show. So you get an opportunity to see different artists, and they're in different stages of their career, which I think is really fun. We have artists that have just graduated from college that have their pieces in there, and you'll see modern pieces mixed in with more traditional pieces. We have a lot of really talented photographers that have entered the show, and some of them do more of the commercial side of photography, and then some people are doing more photography that's more artistic. So it's a really nice opportunity if you have an interest in various art forms. You get to see that there. It's a collaborative show, and see artists at different stages of their career. It's admissions free to come into the gallery, so you don't have to worry about that. And if you come to the reception, like I said, on Sunday, January 22nd, you actually are going to get the opportunity to talk to a lot of the artists, so they can answer any questions or tell you, what techniques they use, because I didn't know it took you, sometimes 25 to 30 hours, and how you went about the process. So it's a really great opportunity to talk to them about that.
And are many of the pieces that are going to be shown, are they available for purchase if people are interested in that?
They are. We are a gallery. You can purchase a lot of the pieces there. And we also have artists that put artwork in bins as well. So there are some female artists that are actually going to be in the gallery. They're not part of the exhibit, but if you're interested in looking at some of their pieces and prints, they'll be available as well.
Great. Now I know that the exhibit starts actually today.
It opens tomorrow, the 14th.
January 14th.
Yes.
And how long will that be running?
It's going to run all the way through March 1st, so it gives people a lot of time to come out and to see it. And we also have a fundraiser that's coming up. We are a nonprofit, Capital Arts is, so that's going to be Sunday, March 18th. And it's going to be a watercolorist, Florence Goulman. She's been in Jefferson City for several years. She's donated over 30 pieces of her artwork to Capital Arts, and we're going to have an auction to auction off some of her work. So that's another opportunity to purchase your own piece of artwork by a Missouri artist.
Yeah, and it's nice to, I think, be able to see works like this and have something that's one of a kind. No one else is going to have anything exactly like it, and that's really neat, I think.
It is nice. It's nice, and to have that, that you can treasure. It's always a nice thing to have.
Well, Jessica, any other exhibits or anything coming up later on in the season, maybe, that people should keep in the back of their mind?
Definitely. We're always thinking about upcoming shows. This show will be through March 1st, and then we're going to be having a fiber show. So artists can showcase their fiber work, or if you want to come in and actually view it, you can. The Jefferson City Art Club is actually going to be having their exhibit out there. We have all kinds of shows. If you're interested, you can go to our website if you're an artist or a patron to learn more about it. And our website is www.capitalarts.org. And if you're an artist, we've got all of the paperwork online now, so they can download that information.
Well, Fred, if someone has seen some of the work that you've done today and they're interested in it, besides coming to the Capital Arts Gallery for this show, any way they can find out more or learn about what you're doing?
I have a website, fredschollmeyer.com, SCHOLLMEYER. I have to spell that German name because that's a tough one, but they can go there and contact me through that.
All right. Well, Jessica, is there anything that you'd like to let our viewers know about maybe ways that they can support the arts in Jefferson City, or just kind of express how important art is as part of life?
Sure. You can become a member of Capital Arts through your generosity and donations of either money or time. I mean, we're also looking for volunteers to work in the gallery on the weekends, to also help out during our artist receptions. You can show your support that way. And then on a bigger scale, if you're really impassioned about the arts and you want to let people know about it, in February, actually, the Citizens Day for the Arts, it's an annual event where citizens that really believe and want to promote and protect the arts, they come out to Jefferson City and they talk to the legislature and let them know about the impact the arts have. So it's kind of a nice way for Jefferson City, for people that are in the capital city and surrounding, to come out and support the arts.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Thanks so much.
And we'd really like to thank our viewers at home for watching JCTV and Community Connection. That's it for our program today, but don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more great JCTV programming. Thanks again for watching.